This is the inaugural event for us, and as Cass mentioned earlier, something we may continue doing in future too. So today we'll be focusing on the topic of a day in the life of an Assurity consultant. And that's really just giving you the opportunity to ask questions and hear from our experienced people and what they've been through in their journey. I'll cover off some initial housekeeping, virtual housekeeping, and then I'm going to introduce our panelists for today. Firstly, my name's Aaron. I join you from a calm, it is actually a calm, but not so sunny Wellington today, sadly. I've heard up in the north, it might be a little bit better. I've been with Assurity for 8 years, and as GM of People and Capability, I'm really passionate about helping those around me be their best at work and get enjoyment out of work. I'll be moderating today's panel session. So for this session, we've got the Q&A functionality available. So you'll see that little icon on the Zoom dashboard, and you can choose to submit questions either named or anonymously. We might answer some of those. We've got some questions pre-prepared based on some feedback we've already had. So we might answer some of those, but we do have dedicated time at the end for 15 minutes just to specifically answer your questions. Please be aware the session is recorded. Before I introduce the panel, I did want to just run a short poll just to help our panelists get to know their audience. The question that Cass is going to bring up is how knowledgeable you feel about working in a consulting firm. So if we just run this quick poll, get your feedback, that would be appreciated. How are we doing, Cass? If you respond, hopefully.
Yeah, we've got 19 responses now, so we'll probably give it another 10 seconds.
Close it off, yep.
Yep, I think we're good. I'm going to end poll and share results. You should be able to see on your screen. Can you see on your screen?
Yes,
yep.
Thank you. So yeah, great. This is fantastic just to help us in terms of how we respond, recognising that roughly 20% of you don't know much about consulting at all. The majority know a little bit, and some of you feel you know a lot. So great, we've got a diverse audience with us today. All right, so to introduce our panel today, so we have Akshay Rao, who joined Assurity nearly 5 years ago, and he's got a really truly versatile background. So believe it or not, Akshay completed education in medical electronics, engineering and user experience. And he's got a really broad range of experience leveraging agile techniques to improve ways of working. But most recently, he's been focusing on helping organizations to innovate. And Akshay is a principal design and innovation consultant with us. Next, we have Rachel Hughes, who's been with Assurity coming up to 6 months. And Rachel holds a master's degree in information technology, and she has deep experience in test and quality. For the past 10 plus years, Rachel's been leading testing initiatives across a wide range of industries and organizations. And Rachel recently decided to make that move into a consulting role. So that's that move to us. Our third panelist is Daniel Lee. Hi, Daniel. Daniel has been working at Assurity for almost a year with a degree in information systems and marketing. So Daniel's careers span development, process improvement, data analysis, and robotic process automation, commonly known as RPA, and quite a wide variety of projects, again, very diverse. With that broad insight, Daniel helps our customers to optimize their processes, leveraging things like RPA. When Daniel joined us a year ago, this was also his first move into a consulting role. And finally, we're joined by Katie Ham. Katie has been with Assurity for 4 years, and she originally joined as a people development manager in Auckland. Katie has most recently, and congrats Katie, been promoted to the role of Auckland General Manager. In that role, she holds accountability for running a successful branch for us. Katie has a wide range of experience and a wealth of knowledge in leadership roles across both New Zealand and the UK, and actually came up with the idea of running the event today. So thank you, Katie. Katie will be working through your Q&A at the end of this session today. Now, as I mentioned, we did sort of reach out to a few potential participants to understand what topics to cover. And so we do have some initial questions just to get the conversation started. So let's get into those. So the first one is probably the most common that we hear often. And the question is, what made you choose a career in consulting? And so, Rachel, I invite you to tell us more about that for you.
Yeah, I was looking for two things. I was looking for diversity in my role and having the opportunity to expand my skill set. And working as a consultant, you definitely have the opportunity to work on a wide range of projects across different verticals. Secondly, I also want to work for an organisation whose values aligned with my own. And I think I got lucky and had those both of those things rolled into one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. And I think, you know, that everyone's probably got different, I guess, motivations around this. So it'd be great to hear from the entire panel. So Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about what made you choose a career in consulting?
Thanks, Aaron. So hi, everyone. My name is Daniel, and I'm a business analyst. So as Aaron introduced before, I joined Assurity about 1 year ago. And at that time, I asked myself, I've been doing a BA for almost 9 years, and it's coming up to 10 years. What I wanted for myself, I want to have a T-shaped career. So the term T-shaped career means I have really in-depth knowledge as a business analyst. I can collect business requirements, do process mapping, and do user UAT training very well. But I also want to widen my industry skills into different markets. So in the early part of my career, I've been doing in purchase to industry, and within just 1 year, I work in Assurity. I work on 3 different industries I've never touched before. So that's what I really want to do, and that's why I'm here. Cool.
Yeah, nice. Oh, it's great to hear that. Yeah, the goal is being achieved. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Daniel. And actually, I know 5 years ago was probably, or 4 or 5 years ago was a while ago. But do you remember kind of why you chose a career in consulting?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Hi, and welcome to everyone. So I think it was a point in my career where I was having worked in an in-house organization, a multinational companies for 10 years in India. I was looking to try out new things. And that was one of the reasons why I moved to New Zealand as well. And just to have those diverse exposure to working life outside India. But to be honest, consulting by itself happened to me more by chance. And I didn't quite understand how different it might be when I was actually getting into the role. But now reflecting back on it, I did have a lot of questions. I think some of those have been raised by you, and I think we'll cover it in the next few panel questions when I started the job. But I had a great support from colleagues and mentors as I started my role. And looking at it now, I've been here, like Aaron mentioned, for close to 5 years. I realized that I prefer doing this more than working in-house. So I would definitely choose consulting over in-house. And it's mainly because it's given me more autonomy in my role. I have such a broad exposure across my role. As I've grown in this career in the last 5 years, I've taken on different roles within the business. So it could be obviously delivering value to customers as a consultant is one big part of the role. But you've got so many things that you can get exposure to if you are actually interested in. So I've worked in project management role, managing the project, working as a delivery lead, looking into more of the financial aspects of the business. So you understand how the business works, how the consulting world is working, and then also being involved in a lot of different business development activities, which wasn't something that I had experience in my 10 years before joining consulting. So it's given me a lot more exposure to different aspects. So for me, it's the autonomy in my role to do things that I love to do, and the exposure to different aspects that I love about a consulting world. So that's about me.
Yeah, nice. And so, yeah, we've heard a few different themes around autonomy, around diversity of work. I think it probably is a nice lead into that next question, which was a theme. And actually, you probably touched on this, maybe sometimes it's an accidental move. And so it's good to be eyes wide open, know kind of what common concerns people might have, when they're considering a career, and I guess how that sort of plays out when you join a new career in consulting. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about, what were some of the concerns you had working at a consulting firm, and what happened from there?
Yeah, I think, Aaron, my biggest concern initially, from going from working in-house to working on my own on a client site, my biggest concern around that was actually the support network, both for work-related issues. So if I have a problem with dealing with a task that I've got, or if I need some assistance delivering, but also for just some general guidance if I'm having a tough day. So as it turned out, those concerns were completely unfounded. During my interview, I was advised that I have the whole of Assurity behind me, and that was really, it was true, it was completely valid. And as an example, I've been on site now for about 4 months, 3 or 4 months, and I've actually had to lean on some of the other Assurity consultants for some guidance on a couple of things, including UAT testing, and they've assisted me, and I've been able to bounce ideas off them, and I've been able to deliver good documentation to the client. As far as the second point is concerned, if you're having a tough day, your Assurity colleagues are just the same as any other colleagues. Sometimes you're out on site with them, sometimes you're not, but they're there in the background, and you can just flick them an email or call them. So any issues like that, they've been completely unfounded.
Yeah, nice. So it's great to hear that. Kind of what you thought might be a risk for you, or a concern joining a consulting, haven't actually played out. And I think hearing that kind of real world demonstration of how that's played out is fantastic. And as you mentioned, consulting roles, certainly for us, and I think this probably goes for a lot of consulting roles in New Zealand, they often mean that you are working at a client site. So maybe Daniel, tell us, I think Rachel's already shared a little bit in this space, but how does the company support you when you have questions or need help? But specifically, I guess, because you're not necessarily always on site at the Assurity office, but rather at the client office.
Thanks, Aaron, for the question. So firstly, I must say, for my personal experience in Assurity, you're not always 100% on client side. There's always some hours or area you're reconnecting with a branch. So that's the start. You're not like just cutting yourself to the client side. And secondly, there are multiple channels I personally take advantage of to connect with the Assurity team. So that's the IPP, and I use the buddy system that I talk to, and I talk to my people lead. That's every fortnight on the meeting. But if there's something I need to raise that's really urgent, I can't wait for the 2 weeks time period, I will actually use the status report. So that's actually part of the ACF framework. So we do a weekly status report and then highlight if the project is in jeopardy. So we do the RAC status and anything opportunity or risk and any issue that comes up, and I can do that. Okay, and then lastly, I have another thing under my sleeve is the BA alignment. For myself, I use the BA weekly alignment meeting and the RPA weekly alignment meeting. So there are like multiple tools I can use to resolve issue. Even if there's like some conflict I need to raise, I will talk to my people lead to deal with on the client side.
Nice. So yeah, having multiple touch points and opportunities, it sounds like. Are they all, just out of interest, Daniel, are they all like mandatory, or do you select those? Are you in control of what those touch points are?
Yep, I definitely have control of all of them. So you can choose to attend and to all of these weekly alignment meeting, and the people lead meeting, I book it with my people lead, and the buddy system, not to mention, it's like ad hoc, only if you require. I think I forgot to mention one last thing. It's the branch meeting we have at Assurity. So that's the one that even especially during the lockdown, that really helped out, because like lockdown, I was like isolated by myself, and then every 2 weeks we had these fun branch meeting, and also do like quizzes, and then to re-socialize, kindle with your peer. That really helped me.
Nice, thank you, Daniel. And yeah, I enjoyed joining some of those remotely, and quiz bombing. I don't know if that's a real term.
Of course you did, because you won the quiz. So.
Apologies again. And so actually, I guess every career has its upsides, you know, every career choice. You mentioned, you know, coming sort of into consulting, you've already talked about what that experience was, and you've done some reflection. So what would you say are the advantages of working in a consulting environment versus, say, a product company or a more corporate kind of in-house role?
Yeah, I think I've touched a bit on it, but I think to elaborate, one of the most important things for me working in the consulting environment is the diversity that you get in terms of exposure to different industries and sectors. Just for example, currently I'm working on 2 different projects, which are 2 different sectors, one being a healthcare sector. So I'm working with the Mid-Central DHP, helping them with their health equity. And then at the same time, I'm working with 3 waters industry, which is trying to identify what their workforce would look like and how they can sustain the workforce going forward in the future. So just in these 3 months, you're getting exposure to these different sectors, and you can bring learnings from these different projects that you're working on. So it's the diversity. And the second one is having that broad learning opportunity. For me, it's always, when you're working on each of these projects, you're learning so much new, you're encountering new challenges and you're overcoming them. So you're consistently learning new things. When I was working in in-house, these MNCs, there were a lot of legacy systems and processes, and I would get quite bogged down by them, especially in my space where I'm working in the design and innovation space. It is essential to think outside the box, think laterally, and bring in new perspectives consistently and constantly. But I felt quite constricted working in those organizations in terms of what I could do and what I couldn't do. Because of, obviously, when I'm working for an organization, you kind of need to work with the software that they're using or work within those constraints. So those were a couple of challenges. The other one was also I had to navigate a lot of internal politics because there were so many stakeholders. You still need to do a bit of stakeholder management here as well, which is important. But I think I would say I used to get dragged down into a lot of internal discussion, internal politics. So yeah, talking about consulting, like working on these multiple projects across different industries, it enables me to bring those additional learnings and perspectives from an adjacent sector into something that I'm currently working to help deliver value to the client that I'm working with. And in the end, it's helping their customers. So advantages for me in the consulting world is having a broader learning opportunities, having exposure to different diverse set of projects, and having that freedom to think outside the box.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think a lot of that rings true around, yeah, when you're internal, right, your remit or how you feel you can contribute is often quite different, I think, than, say, coming in and supporting that. Thank you, Akshay. And you touched a little bit on learning and development, and it is a really hot topic right now, I think, across probably New Zealand, but arguably the world, around sort of the digital skills shortage. Just going to get a view from each of our panelists on this next question, which is how does the company support you in your professional training and development pathway? Rachel, it'd be great to hear from you first. Obviously still reasonably new to Assurity, but what support have you had?
Yeah, I've had plenty of support, more than I expected. It was really interesting because for the first few weeks of joining Assurity, I was on the bench, so I wasn't working on a client site. So I did a couple of things during that period, and most importantly, I defined what my OKRs were for the first quarter and spoke to my people manager about setting some realistic goals that I could achieve, but also doing some stretch goals. And some of this was, you know, looking at what my abilities were, how I could work out on site, and where I actually want my career to go, which was actually probably the first time that was put on me by an employer, which I was really quite astounded at. I thought it was amazing. Excuse me. So the first thing, so when you put these things into action, because I wasn't out actually on site, and we do have these opportunities in between jobs, and I was able to do some PSM training and some agile training. And it wasn't just in-house training, it was delivered, well, it was delivered by an in-house trainer, but you know, I got a certified qualification at the end of it. And I think overall, your people manager is there to help guide you through the goals that you set for yourself, and making sure that they're not just in line with what you want, that they're in line with the company's values, and also the opportunities that you get when you're working out on a client site. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Rachel. And yeah, it sounds like a lot's happened in the first 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. For the first certainly for the first 2 months, there was a lot going on for me in terms of my personal development, and I felt really lucky to have that opportunity to have a little bit of breathing space to actually focus on not actually just delivering it, but defining what and where I wanted to go.
Yeah, having that goalpost, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Daniel, how about for you? You're kind of a bit further in your journey with us.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. So for my personal experience, because as soon as I started Assurity, I actually had a engagement, but in between my engagement, I did have some bench time. So I didn't being assigned to any client. And I used that time really wisely, talking to my people lead. I attended some in-house education courses in our capability framework. So if people that don't know, so Assurity also provides like really great education training, and then we sell this to other companies, to other clients. But if you're working as a consultant in-house, you're actually welcome to join these sessions. So I personally joined quite a few, like design thinking training, agile training, and the really cool ones, the sales training. I actually never see myself being part of that, but that was a really good unexpected result for me. And other thing I do is, as I mentioned before, the people lead and buddy systems that just help you with like your monthly and your quarterly goals. So it just push you out of your comfort zone to learn new stuff. So that sales training was actually pushing me out of my comfort zone. I've never done that before as a BA. Okay, lastly, another thing I'll mention is we'll get this partner software vendors. They'll send us invites to all these training. And the example I have is like UiPath will send us these training, and Microsoft will also send us these training. So people who are working in the consultancy and they're interested in that area, it doesn't mean you're in that BA role. You can sign up for these roles.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. That's a lot in a year as well. So yeah, and obviously those partnerships we have, and most consultancies will have opportunities to leverage existing learning material that they have too. Yeah, totally. Actually, from your side, you've obviously been in Assurity a lot longer and in that consulting environment. What have you found personally?
Yeah, I think just to add, I think Daniel and Rachel have already covered heaps of stuff, but just to add on what they have mentioned. So I think one of the thing is like Assurity has got an excellent education offering. So that provides us with a lot of opportunities to get upskilled and trained. Like personally, I have been through, over the years, I've got like 4 IC Agile certifications and got opportunities to do few uncredited courses as well. And these have helped me immensely with my delivery of projects. And also the team is very supportive of any additional trainings that we might require. Just to give an example, this was, I think, in 2020, we were doing a bunch of projects on user experience, and there was a part of user experience spectrum that we wanted to specialize in, and we wanted to have some professional trainers come and train us. And we did, as in the team, the leadership did organize a special training for us to get us trained in those aspects. So very supportive of those things. The other aspect is because within Assurity, we have a full spectrum of such talented people who are supporting businesses across the entire product or service lifecycle. So we have like end-to-end support. So this gives me personally a great opportunity to learn and upskill and grow professionally to bridge my gaps. Like I could reach out to anyone within the organization where I know they are experts with XYZ. Like I can reach out to Daniel if I want to have some discussions around the business analyst side of things or the RPA side of things. So it gives us a lot of opportunity from that perspective. And also from the like having some kind of a platform. We have something called as a capability framework that is set up, where anyone in the organization is encouraged to develop their capability in an area that interests them. And especially when we are in between engagements, you are kind of supported and encouraged to upskill yourself or even develop new intellectual property. For example, currently I'm working on a new training course, which is called Customer Centricity. So I'm designing this course based on my team's experience working with different businesses in the last year to help people, passionate people who want to discover their customers' hidden needs and convert them into new opportunities and new possibilities. So personally, I feel very supported and encouraged to grow myself and upskill myself.
Nice, thank you, Akshay. And yeah, you touched on a great topic there around, yes, it's important to have learning and development opportunities for yourself, but also an environment where you can then impart your own knowledge and experience on others who want to learn in that space. So it's really important, I think, in a consulting space in particular to have that environment. Perfect. Hey, look, I'm seeing a number of questions coming through from the audience in the chat, which is fantastic. So I've just got one question to go from the sort of questions I prepared for the panel. And maybe a little selfishly, given my role at Assurity, I felt I had to drop this one in. And I'll ask this of the panel, but we'll keep it succinct. So maybe, Rachel, you can answer this one first, which is, what was it about Assurity that attracted you, specifically about us, and keeps you?
Your values. I really feel that Assurity's values, they align with my own, but, you know, I've worked for various different companies and who've had various different values, and they don't live them. They don't live and breathe them. And I really believe that Assurity do. And in order to demonstrate this, is that, you know, when we have our monthly meetings for the branch, they are, you know, we recognize where people have actually delivered on their values. So, you know, if they have shown to care or if they've shown potential or whatever it may be, we actually acknowledge that in each individual. And it's not just the senior leaders who are actually nominating those people, it's your peers, the people that you work with, and it's really awesome. I love it. I think it's a really good place to work, and hand on heart, I really believe that they deliver on their values.
Nice. Yeah, you touched on that, understanding your own personal values and then whether there's that alignment. And yeah, I believe we might have some award winners on the panel. So congratulations.
You certainly do.
Last night. Daniel, what about for you? What sort of attracted you and keeps you here?
Thanks, Aaron. I think the reason that attracted me here is the people. And I don't mean by attractive people. I mean the people with like mindset, the close mindset as myself. They're very creative and a very like growth, and then not like locked to the very fixed mindset. And that's what I really like. And another thing I like is the culture here. So you're working under stress. So consultancy, of course, any type of job, you'll be working under stress, but you can be in a safe social environment at Assurity. I find myself always feel ease almost like at home, so at Assurity. And we had a CEO that likes dad jokes. Maybe that's like not a mirror for everyone, because but I really enjoy that. And another thing that Rachel mentioned earlier is I feel like in Assurity you can actually feel all your effort is visible. Like people do shout out like kudos and then values award. You can actually feel like every little bit you do for the company, you can see it here. And if you work in a, I don't know, like a 10,000 people company, anything you do, you're just a number, just a 7-digit employee number. But here you can actually feel the people, the culture, and anything you do is visible.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, and you touched on a great point around that safety, that feeling of people around you have got your back. And I think, you know, if you're exploring consulting careers, I think that's an important thing to explore with the organisation, is how do they create that safe environment where their people are out with clients and really need that safety net. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very safe. I just the CEO on the dad joke, and so it's safe.
Yeah, and he's on the call. Yeah,
He's on the call, yeah.
Akshay.
I think I would align with what Daniel just mentioned. I think the first and foremost for me are the people and the safety to explore. Like what Daniel mentioned. So we've got some great people here, and we care about each other, especially personally for me, when I moved to New Zealand 5 years back. I just moved here with my wife and did not have any family or stuff like that. So Assurity is our family here. And we feel quite supported with all the aspects of that. And that's what, and like Daniel mentioned, it's the safety net for you to kind of explore and learn and upskill. That's what keeps me with Assurity. And in terms of what attracted me to Assurity was the depth of the services that we provide. So we support end-to-end, as in working in design and innovation space. We often work in the initial phases of the project where we are defining the vision or a strategy for a new product or an existing product or service. And in the past, I would hand it over at a stage where we have defined this vision, and then we never get involved in any of the processes or the later stages of the project. Whereas here, because we have consultants who can support across the entire digital transformation for the client, we're kind of there helping the client to deliver till the end. So we can ensure that what we have envisioned gets delivered in the end. So that's another thing that I like really about Assurity, that we've got the end-to-end gamut.
Yeah, absolutely. That provides the opportunity for some diversity, I think, as well, the platform for that. Thank you, Akshay. So look, that's some of the questions we heard about in advance that we've sort of run through now, but I think it's time that we really open up for you all. So please do use the Q&A function. I'm going to pass over to Katie for this section to just work through your questions. Katie, over to you.
Great, thanks, Aaron. The first question, or we've had a couple of questions actually around in terms of what we're looking for when we're recruiting people. So I'll just answer part of that, because I have had the question, do we have a specific qualification that we require as a prerequisite? And I've done a lot of recruitment in Assurity in my time here, and I can honestly say there's no one qualification that we look for in any of our roles. But in any of our roles, we do have a really good idea of the skills or experience and behaviours that we are looking for, that we know will mean that the person joining us will be able to thrive in their role. So we're quite clear about that when we advertise what we're looking for in each role, but we don't have any specific qualifications that are a kind of hurdle for people to jump through. And then, Aaron, I'm going to pass you the next question, which is building on from that, which is somebody has asked, you know, if we want to join to learn about testing but don't have any background in tests, do we have the opportunity for that? And we do. So Aaron, tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So traditionally we ran a grad program, and that's been part of one of our values is valuing potential. And so for part of how we live that value is around grads. And so that program has been in place for about 16 years, which is about how old we are. And it's very dear to the founders, Garth and Darren, and sort of their ethos around how we work as an organisation and contributing to growing the tech community in New Zealand. About, it must have been 6 years ago, we then had some great feedback from our own staff when they realised that, particularly in software testing, people fall into the industry. You don't grow up saying, I want to be a software tester. You don't necessarily even go to university thinking that. So they realised, you know, the people around them had potentially previously been filmmakers or lighting technicians or whatever. And so we started what we call our Fresh Start program. And we have just completed another selection round for that. They typically, grad or Fresh Start programs run every 6 or 12 months. And, you know, we do accept repeat applicants. You know, it is a very competitive space, I recognise. And so, you know, we're totally open to talking to people as they learn and develop their own confidence in what they are looking to do. But that is the channel for us around where someone doesn't have experience. It does mean for us, because of our company history, that, and the majority, well, a lot of our work is in the software testing space, that we see that as the platform. But we have then opportunities, as we've, I believe, already discussed through the panel, around setting objectives and growing in other areas from there. But certainly test is the sort of foundation for us, software quality assurance or test. We do have 2 streams, they don't always run. One is functional or sort of analysis in the test space, and the other is an engineering stream. And the engineering one, we, again, coming back to the quals, we don't have a qualification requirement, but we do have a technical capability requirement. So there's it could be that someone, you know, does PHP coding at night whilst doing another job, or maybe studying something else. They may still meet the criteria for test engineering.
Thanks, Aaron. And there was another question which was just around, do all of our candidates in all of our areas need to have tech experience? And the answer is just no. You know, testing is a big part of our business, but certainly in sort of BA space and process optimization and design and innovation space, that's not necessarily a requirement at all to have that technical experience or exposure. And some of our clients, you know, we do a lot of work that doesn't feel that it's particularly technical, but often there's just a link to a digital sort of element. And we may be a part of that, or we may not be, depending on the way they've engaged with us. Okay, another question, and I think, Akshay, this might be a good one for you, but how do you balance the interest of Assurity versus the interest of the client when you're working with the client?
Yeah, I think our main aim when we are going into any of these projects or any of these engagements is we are trying to go there, add value to our clients and what value they are providing to their customers. So we are always, especially working in the design and innovation space, we are always trying to challenge the company or the client to do something differently or what's right for their customers. So you're always challenging them, and there's a bit of balancing act there to understand what really is possible for them to do in terms of technically and in terms of their feasibility and what is viable within the business. So there's an element of balancing that, but it's never been a balance between what Assurity wants and what client wants. It's always about delivering value for the client. So until unless we are going there with that motive, that's how we kind of go into any kind of engagement. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, actually. Yes, we kind of have a mantra here in that we always leave our clients better off than where we found them. And if we're not helping the client and adding value, then we don't want to be there. So that's absolutely right. Okay, Daniel, can I ask you, how do you define success as a consultant?
Oh, thank you, Katie. So to define success for each consultant will be different. I'll take a qualitative way and a quantitative way. So firstly, the quantitative one, I think as everyone knows, so it's consultancy, we can do that by gross profit percentage. And the other way we can measure it is by your quarterly survey from the client side. So as we do go on, send on to client side, you receive survey from your project team, for the team manager, or like the C-suites. So that's how you can truly reflect. And even from your peer, you receive a survey, you can reflect how you perform in your role during that project. And for myself, and the qualitative one, if you actually live to the value that you set, and the value that we have at Assurity, if I remember, oh my God, I should have mentioned it. We lead, we value potential, we care, we challenge, we delight. Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, so if you truly live to those like value and that you believe in, and then you put that into your IPP, you challenge yourself, you always learn something new from each engagement. If I come back from this client engagement, I don't find I learned anything new, I wouldn't say that's a very successful engagement for myself as a consultant. I always want to learn something new. That's why I don't want to work in-house. I want to work on multiple industry and always like be the better version of myself. Cool. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Daniel. Okay, now we've had a question as well, which is what do we think the company Assurity looks like in 10 years' time? And I'd like to throw some thoughts in there and then open it up to everyone else as well. But obviously coming into my new role as GM of Auckland, been looking at this, and what I can tell you about the company in 10 years' time is our values will still be very much who we are. That'll be how we behave with each other, how we behave with our clients, how we guide our decision making, how we help our people grow, because that's just so intrinsic to who we are. And our purpose, I think, will still be the same as well, in terms of we're all about helping our clients, New Zealand businesses, make their future and helping to improve what they do and get a better outcome for their customers, for their people, for their business, and for New Zealand. So I think that will be very much consistent. Other than that, what we know about Assurity is that we've grown organically by responding to what's happening in the market, seeing what's going to be next happening in the market, and also using the great ideas coming from our people. So we started off very much as a software testing business, but we've grown quite organically to include agile ways of working and employee growth, to include BA, to include design and innovation, and DevOps, and grow that way. So we will keep seeing what's around the corner and adapting and bringing on the right people on board with us to ensure that we can keep, making sure we are the right people, New Zealand's preferred delivery partner for helping businesses make their future. So that's my thoughts, but anybody else want to jump in there?
I think you've covered it really well, Katie.
Okay.
Nothing much. I think we are going to, my take is, I think we are going to grow in a lot of these spaces in the future. We are already looking at growing our teams, because we've got so many projects, so many opportunities to work and support clients with. So definitely that is one area where we want to expand.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add to what you said, Katie, around the purpose, our purpose around making our clients' future. And New Zealand does still have a massive, productivity gap and issue. And, we really see our role in supporting New Zealand to change that through the use of, efficiency, productivity in that digital space. And I think that will just continue to grow. And so for us, it's not necessarily a specific target, but if internally then we can have our people, share their ideas around how we can achieve that, connect that with customers, then our goal is obviously to make a difference when those productivity measures come out, and we see how New Zealand organisations are, improving how they compete globally, and ultimately that we all have a better quality of life because of it. And so for our people, that means, growth as well.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, we've got another question there, which is how many projects does a consultant work on at the same time? And what is the average duration of the projects? Daniel, do you want to talk about, how that's looked for you? And then maybe Akshay or Rachel, how that's looked for you?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Michael, for the question. So I would say if it's a full-time engagement, so obviously you only have one. So that would be more than 30, a range around like 32 to 36 hours at the client side. And you'll always have hours at connecting with the Assurity team. And average duration for the projects, that will be probably 3 to 6 months on average, depending on the scale of the project as a rough estimate. And there are some different type of project that would be you're not doing on a full time. It's like a fixed project, so you'll probably be doing 2 at the same time. And for that type of project, you'll need to be able to do context switching between 2 clients really quickly. And yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, and I think it looks a little different in your space, Akshay.
Yes, so I think it quite differs in terms of what kind of delivery that we are doing with the client. So what kind of engagement it is. So if I'm defining a strategy for a completely new product, for example, that someone is trying to launch, it might be a year-long engagement, or it could be like just a 2-day workshop that we have run to define the planning session for a client, for example. So it differs based on what the client is trying to deliver in our design and innovation space, especially. And so we don't have a set average duration. It depends on what the client is trying to achieve, and we would cater it based on that.
Okay, thank you. Another question here, and that's, what does work-life balance look like as a consultant? Rachel, do you want to talk to us about that and what changes it has meant for you coming into the consulting world?
Yeah, I think as a consultant, when you're working on a client site, you are contracted to work a certain number of hours per week. And of course, many projects will overrun, or they'll be timelines will run short, and the client might actually expect you to work more hours like per week than perhaps that contract says. So I think what I have learned at working at Assurity is that if you escalate this to people at Assurity, that they will actually come back and they will say, no, this is, and they will support you so that that work-life balance is not affected. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's certainly better than working working in-house, where those expectations might not be the same. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we had another question just come through. Would your Fresh Start program be a good place to start for a tester that has taken an extended career break raising a family? Aaron, do you want to answer that?
The classic response, it depends. I think, typically where someone's had a career break, there may still be an opportunity to apply their capability to a more experienced role. The reality with our program is that it's designed to teach foundational skills. And so if someone already has those, then it may not necessarily be the best place to start. Actually, a test analyst vacancy, for example, or senior test analyst vacancy, or whatever the capability level looked like, may be more applicable. I think, what we probably want to focus on is a bit of a clean slate almost, where that cohort are all learning and going through that starting journey together. So it depends a little bit on what's happened before the break. But I certainly know that, we've had situations before where people have applied and we've actually determined they're more relevant experience to an experienced role, and then we've gone through a selection process in that space instead. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we've had a question, what does the office look like on a Friday afternoon?
Well, I can answer that question, Katie.
Go ahead.
So, of course, when you're on client site and you're working on a project, that does have to take priority. But even when that's not the case, like during lockdown, for example, Assurity have established a meeting which is just let's end the week together. So we get together for drinks and a online quiz, which can be quite a lot of fun. And it's a really good way to actually not just end your week and draw a line between work and play, but it's also a really, really amazing opportunity just to touch base and get to know your Assurity colleagues who you may or may not know particularly well. Yeah,
absolutely.
I can jump in for Wellington. So in Wellington, we've obviously had a slightly different 100 and something days than Auckland. And at the moment, we mix it up, but at the moment on a Friday, all our consultants who are at client sites are invited to come in, or if they're working from home. And we've had like a brewery of the month, because, it's Craft Beer City, Wellington, where there's sort of a change in brewery every month. But obviously then there's a variety of beverages for people that don't want to participate in beer. And that's, again, just an opportunity for people to come together, share the week, relax into the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And pre-lockdowns, Auckland certainly had regular sort of drinks either Thursday night or Friday night, depending on how the week was going, just for people in the office if they want to catch up. But we also, we make an effort to do big social events at least twice a year, and some smaller social events during the year. So we've got together to play Holy Moly. We had our Christmas party last year. I think it was on a boat cruising the harbour, which was awesome. And we've done other things where we get together and do paint and wine and so forth. So we always ask our people, what do you want to do? And we go with that. Yeah.
And I believe it's very similar experience in the Christchurch office too, in terms of the social events. So a great place to actually just keep track of what we do outside of work is on our Instagram account.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
We've got another question here. So Daniel, I'll put this one to you, but as a consultant, how do you deal with sudden changes, such as to the project requirement or switching to different clients between a project?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, as a consultant, you always deal with changes. So first, I need to understand whether this change is an enhancement, is a change of new change of requirement, or it's like something we didn't deliver. So if there's something after that, you can use the status report which is under the Assurity Consulting Engagement Framework, ASAFE framework, to tell your manager and to tell your team lead on that. And switching to different client between a project. So it may happen. So in that one, you need to do a handover. So first you need to have a discussion with your among Assurity, with your team lead. And then you need to do a handover, and then you have a deliver that to your client to tell that you are switching out. So it has happened before.
Yeah, just to add to what Daniel said, with some of the design and innovation projects, generally we have it's quite ambiguous in terms of what we are trying to achieve out of this and what would happen in the end. So we generally try to have some milestones. So there are milestones where you can actually pivot. So you would learn something, and at that milestone, when we initially plan, we might have a particular plan that we would go in this direction, but there are milestones put in the plan to ensure that you can actually pivot in those points. So you might learn something, and then you realize actually the next phases need to be tweaked a bit, because what we have learned now changes the direction that we have to take going forward.
Yep. Thank you. So we've had actually a flurry of questions now, which is really cool. We can see some excitement, and people are wanting to ask, what about my experience? And I want to talk to someone about this and so forth. But I'm aware we do need to wrap up. So what I would just add is people have asked, we look at all experience, and we look for transferable skills across any background. So there's no particular background we'd rule out or rule in. So if you're interested, then it's definitely worth reaching out to talk to us. If you want to connect with some of our people on the panel, or just people in the areas of work that you're interested in, we can definitely provide that opportunity. And there's an opportunity to ask further questions in the survey, in our post-webinar survey that we'll send out as well. So we'll be sending all that information, and that also includes, if you do want to apply to come and work with us, what our recruitment process would look like as well. So thank you so much for all of the questions and engaging with us in that way. And we're really pleased to be able to answer most of them, hopefully. And as I say, there's plenty of opportunity to ask those questions after the webinar as well.
Thank you, Katie. And look, thanks so much for joining us today. I just want to, ask that you please join me in thanking our panelists, Akshay, Rachel, and Daniel, for sharing their stories. So I know I can't see you, but virtual jazz hands for the panel. As Katie mentioned, there's a survey link coming, and that'll come out in chat shortly. And we do really welcome your feedback on the quality of the session we ran. And on that note, also a big thank you to Cass and Keith from the marketing team, who really helped bring these events to life for us, and we really appreciate your support. I also appreciate that talking about career options is quite a personal topic. And as Katie mentioned on our careers page, you can also find out a bit about life at Assurity. We've got an Instagram page, but you'll also see there is the opportunity to connect with a regional people experience manager, and you can have a confidential one-to-one discussion if you're ever interested. It might be to discuss roles with us, but it might also just be to get some coaching advice on your next career move. It's an amazing opportunity. You know, these are very experienced professionals in that development space. So definitely an opportunity if you're ever interested. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. Stay safe, everyone, and ka kite.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, it's really cool comments in the chat. Bye, everybody.
Nice.